Hey everybody, this is Blue. How's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's doing great. Um, my last video I was talking about some of the hardships I had over the holiday weekend, but that's in the past now. It's time to move on and be creative in so many other ways. I love to be creative. Now, one of the things that I like to do is also role playing, and this leads into the tarot deck. I play an alternate Earth history role-playing game. And so one of the things I like to do is think about what do we have or had in that time period that can be altered in a subtle way to give the game um, more depth. And so I was thinking about what other little things could I change, and I was playing solitaire at the time while I was thinking this out, and so I had the idea, let's change the deck of cards. And so I was just going and did my research, that on a regular deck of cards. Some of you might not know this, but the club is to represent agriculture. What we see is a club is actually supposed to be a clover, so it should be green and not black. But anyway, so there was 4 suits, and I was trying to think, well, what can I do that's different? And so I created a modified deck of cards right here. Everything is printed out. This is an 84 card deck. I created 2 new suits to represent other options. Um, I have the 2 new ones are the orb, because I thought about representing spirituality, one's beliefs, and we do in many forms. People put orbs as for spirits or for energy, and so I thought that would be a good representation. It's simple and different. And the other one is the cog, or the gear. We talk to people about, if they're thinking too hard, they get those gears going, the gears are smoking. And it's also a representation of settings on computers and programs. And so I wanted something to represent education, to be smarter, knowledge, wisdom. And so I created the deck. I even created a new card, well, 2 new cards. And you can say that I was being a feminist when I did it, because we all know that deck of regular playing cards has a king and queen, then the jack. So we have 2 male, 1 female. So I was going through there, how can I add? And so I decided to add a second female card. Now, unfortunately, with the old signs and all that, or I mean titles, if you have a lord, you have a lady, baron, baroness, everything, same letters. And we always like to have unique letters. That's why the jack is called a jack, because it was either knight or knave, which also begin with a K, and, well, king starts with a K. And so I created the Lord and the Maiden. And so now there's 4 face cards and the regular 10 count cards. And this took roughly 2 days to make. And it was fun. A challenge. And it was to test my will out. So I decided to take the same process and apply it to the tarot deck. And so now the tarot deck tells a beautiful story. It tells 2 different stories. I learned this when I got my Druidcraft deck many, many, many years ago. The 2 stories. The first one is if you put your suits all in sequence and put them in a circle, they can represent the year. The 4 suits, the 4 seasons. It's very beautiful. It's a good story. The other one is about the fool and his journey to be a better person. Okay. And so I thought I would like to expand on the story. I looked at it and I wanted to tell a little bit of a better story, different story. And so I had finally had everything click into place roughly 5 days ago, and I had went nuts printing everything. It's all printed out. So now all I have to do is create my booklet to give all the cards their meanings or potential meanings. So let's go through and I could show you a little bit. I wanted to tell 2 stories, and there's actually more. Okay, one of the first signs is the cup. Okay, so there is what would my princess cup look like. And that, of course, represents water. We have a monolith here. Now, this was one of the hardest things for me to work out, was that the other symbol that I wanted represented was spirituality, because that's very important to me. And in a lot of pagan practices, the pentacle represented spirituality. And so I changed it up and I made the pentacle the representation of spirituality, and thus I needed something else to represent Earth. And so I came up with this idea. That's a monolith. So we would have the king of monoliths, queen of monoliths, okay? And so Earth is the monolith. Pentacles, spirituality. I think that is important. This is one of the other little stories I wanted to tell with the cards, if you lay them out, because we don't just do it at one time. It's supposed to be year-round. Our quest to work on our spirituality, establish our spirituality, and move beyond in our spirituality. And so that is the purpose of that particular symbol. Now, that is supposed to be a wand or a staff. I'm calling mine staff because, well, I want to be different. And so this is just a standard, that represents the air. The other new one is tomes. Education is important to me. I think that we needed to be reminded that education is a part of our spirituality. It is a part of life. And there are so many people that are new to paganism that do not understand paganism and are unfortunately very gullible to concepts. The one that I remember the most, because it's the most infuriating, there's this meme going around that people are claiming that quartz is not a physical item, that it vibrates so dang fast, that's why we can touch it and feel it. It's vibrating because of its magical energy, which is bull crap. Because if I remember right, the mem says that it's vibrating faster than the speed of light. If it was vibrating past the speed of light, it'd be too hard to touch. It would actually burn through the earth. Okay, so it's a bunch of bull crap, and it's deceiving a lot of people. And so we need to maintain an education so that we know what is woo and what is real. And the last one is swords. Okay, we all know that represents fire. And so those are the 6 suits that I'm using in this deck. Let me clear them out. So you represent. So, like I was talking about that original circle with the original 4 shows the cycle of the year. Well, you would cycle in an outer ring, the spirituality cards, because of our spiritual journeys, needs to be taken as well. And then in an even further out ring around, you would want to have your education cards, because we must always learn. When you stop learning, you stop living. Okay? And so I've created new cards, and I added 4 to my major arcana. First one is the Druid Animist, because in the original story, there really is no talking and showing somebody that their place in the universe, their place in the world, how they fit in, and how everything is kind of dependent on each other and affects each other. And so I thought that was important. Next one is the healer. There actually is no healer in the deck, which is kind of surprising to me. But the healer is important because, we are going to get sick. We're going to get hurt. We are going to have to face dangers. And we have to be able to heal ourselves and to help others. And so I think the healer card is important. Next one is the scholar. Obviously, yes, education is important to me, and there is no real scholar card. And so in the story where the fool, which I hate that title for him, he's a seeker. He is wanting to better himself. He interacts with a whole bunch of different people to learn about his abilities that he has within and what he has to challenge and encounters along the way. And through all that, there isn't a scholar to remind him to look and learn. And so that's why I added a scholar to the major arcana for my deck. The final card that I added was the merchant. As Randy Newman says, unfortunately, it's the money that matters. We live in a capitalistic society. We have a lot of greedy people out there. We need money to progress in life. Nothing really is for free, as they say. And so I thought a merchant was important. We have to learn, unfortunately, about money, about bartering and everything. And so I thought the merchant was a very important person or card to add to the major arcana. Now, I've made some changes also to certain cards, renamed them. After all, it's my deck. I can do what I want, right? And so one of the changes is that card right there. This is my representation of the chariot, because the chariot is about going forth. It is your determination to find out what's around you, which is what a pilgrim does. They go on a pilgrimage to a site. They go seek out. And so I thought that was a good change. This also adds a little bit more of a fantasy flair, because, like I said, this is also about my role-playing game. And so I can take my deck and put it in my game and, work with it. And sometimes people and characters need to take a pilgrimage, which is a part of the journey in life is basically a pilgrimage through random events. And so I think that that's an important card to consider. Sacrifice. This is the hanged man. That's what the hanged man represents. Some of the hardships and the things we have to give up and sacrifice in life to move on. And so I have a sacrifice card. I think the rest of that's pretty much self-evident. Oops. The Macabre. Now, the Macabre represents the tower. The tower is about destruction and having to rebuild. It is about feeling powerless and having doubt. The Macabre in the fantasy world is a character that uses his magic to weaken a person, to make them sick, to take away their power from them. And so that represents the tower very closely to me. And so I thought that was a nice flair to the game, to the cards and to the game. Okay. And the Seer. Now, the Seer, is a fortune teller. So obviously this is my representation for the Wheel of Fortune, because the future is to be seen. We don't know it. It's not set in stone. Many, many things could happen. And so I thought this was a great way to add the flair and to represent the Wheel of Fortune. Some of the other changes I've made, I didn't want to load up all the graphics, because I think this one's important too. There are cards in the Major Arcana that are sometimes misinterpreted, or people only see in one way, and that card is like the Lovers. It is not just about romantic or sexual romance. It is about what you value. And so, let's see if I can get that card. There we go. Value is the actual name of the card. And that's a dragon on top of its pile of gold, because that's what's important to the dragon. And so I thought that was an excellent concept. I have thought about making this, I have to do a lot of work to do it, but eventually selling this. I mean, it takes by hand, because I just have a simple office printer. It takes roughly 5 hours to print out the 110 cards. Let's see, yeah. Got my notes right here. Well, but I would have to get a whole bunch of new artwork for this to work. They have the card Strength. This is your ability to face adversity and to move on. And so, let's see, I made a warrior card, because they have to be strong and overcome all obstacles to achieve their goals. And so I still got a long ways to go on finishing this deck while everything is printed. The next thing I got to do is wax coat the cards. So it creates a seal so all the ink doesn't smudge, and it also makes the cards easier to shuffle. There's nothing on the back. I have a stamp ordered. I'm using rubber stamps, and I'm going to be stamping the back on all these cards, because those I don't have to come up with something completely original for each card, so I can easily stamp these out. So I have made many, many decks over this last year, some by hand, some by computer, and I have used over 500 cards so far, and it really feels good to be creative. I suggest everybody to be creative. These are some of my other decks that I have here. Some of these are about building sigils, which is a major part of witchcraft, and so I can create sigils and place them on the cards and use them in the game, and I would learn more and more about sigil magic and also being creative. That's why I do the role-playing game, because there are things about witchcraft magic and paganism, my spirituality and other spiritualities, place them in the game, and I gain more. I become better at my gifts, my skills, my desires. And so I'm just so happy to have this major project done. Most of the decks that I have created have been under 50 cards or under. And so to go from just a few of those to my big 110 advanced tarot deck, I am just extremely happy. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, because to me it's just a major milestone for me to get something that big done and completed in a short period of time. I was lucky because since I have tried to make Oracle/Tarot decks before, I did have files on my computer, with information and images on hand. So it was pretty easy to, once I had the final concept figured out, to put everything together. So anyway, everybody, please have a good day. Take care and be at peace.